Every day is an adventure on the road for a truck driver. You never know what's just over that next hill. My adventure began in February 2002. I am Richard Goon, better known as the Truckin' Rooster, and this is my story. Welcome to the Tales from the Road.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of yet another disastrous day in my career that entertains you all so much. So, I guess that's where the good stories come from. The worst days make the best stories, I guess. Anyway, this was back in 2003, right there. Winter of 2003, so I had just been driving about a year, and was still with Covenant there right at the end of my time with Covenant. And so anyway, I was up in New Jersey, and not to get too much into it because it's a whole nother story, but there was a blizzard up there, and we were shut down at the yard for a week. And you know, we had 3 foot, like at least 3 feet of snow in the yard, completely across the yard. Like I could get out of my truck, step on the top step, and just walk across the snow all the way across. I mean, it was unbelievable. So anyway, they finally came, and after a week, they dug us out. So, you know, I hooked up to this trailer. They got me a load going over to Brooklyn and Yonkers into New York City. And going into New York City in the middle of summer on a dry day is a recipe for disaster enough. But going into New York City after an epic blizzard is just a nightmare. I mean, they got nowhere to put the snow over there. You know, they just come through and they'll plow the streets and they just throw it on the cars and everything else around it. And so, you know, now you got where normally the guy, you know, how the little UPS trucks and, you know, everybody runs around and parks right on the kind of on the side of the road, you know. Now they're parking in the middle of the road. So it's just a disaster over there. So anyway, I pick up this trailer and I go over to Brooklyn, and it was actually pretty easy. I had good directions, didn't have really no issues. So it was a good, you know, it was a good deal. The only problem, I was coming out after I made my delivery, and I was coming out of Brooklyn to get out of there, and then I follow the guy, told me where to go, and I go down there, and I come up on this bridge, and it says like 12 foot, you know, and I'm slamming on the brakes. You know, a local driver pulls up next to me there, and he's like, no, go ahead. He's like, just keep going, you'll make it. He said they mark all these bridges about a foot low. I said, well, that's nice. As if it wasn't bad enough, let's just cause more mass confusion to the truck drivers, you know. So yeah, that's what I learned in New York City. You know, you can drive under 12 foot 6 bridges in New York City all day long. So yeah. So anyway, get to Yonkers, which is basically just a suburb of New York City, sitting right on the edge of New York City. So for all intents and purposes, it's New York City. It's the same thing, you know. You're gonna have the same layout, the same everything over there. So I go to this place, to this big, you know, great big warehouse, right off the exit, you know. Everything's great. I mean, it was easy. I'm like, all right, so now I got to go to, supposed to go back over to Newark, New Jersey, to get loaded. So, I come out of this warehouse, and I went, you know, down the road here, and, you know, it's freaking, this is what, 2003, okay, so you gotta think, we had no GPS, no Google Maps, absolutely, you know, had absolutely no navigational aids whatsoever. You know, I mean, if you made one wrong turn somewhere and you didn't know where you were, you know, you were screwed. And the only way to correct it was to get yourself turned around to go back to the last point that you knew where you were. You know, that's how we navigated back then. You know, you didn't have a GPS saying recalculate, turn left here. You know, no, you went back to where you screwed up and you started over. I don't know where it all went wrong, you know what I'm saying? Like in New York, it's just, it can go wrong like that. And you're just, boom, next thing you know, you're screwed. Don't know where you're at. You know, it could be a 11-foot bridge around the next turn. You know, you have no idea. So when I came in, it was easy, but I wanted to go back out, and I think apparently I was supposed to hook a left here somewhere, and I went right. I missed it. Right into downtown Yonkers. Oh my God, I see, you know. So I'm like trying to turn. I'm thinking, man, I'm going down this street. I'm getting farther and farther in. See, this ain't gonna be good, you know. So, you know, it's like here, I'm up here on the main street, and I see all these streets go down to a street below, and then, you know, make a left and then come back up the other road. So I'm like, all right. So I found one, and I went down this road, and I mean, it was down. It was steep. It was a big hill. I mean, it was so I go down this hill, and I start to turn left, and I look in my mirror as my trailer's coming around, and there's and here you see these cars were parked right there, and I was like, you know, it wasn't gonna. I was like, man, this that much I couldn't clear the car. You know, and there was a telephone pole there on the corner, but the pole, I think it wasn't the problem. It was just this one car sitting on the corner. So I'm like, oh man, I'm screwed now. I got people are backing up the hill, and so I called. The only thing I always do is I call 911. You know, 911. What's your emergency? Yeah, I'm a truck driver. I'm here at the such and such intersection. Okay, I got lost. I was trying to make my way around the block, turn around. Anyways, I'm stuck here. You know, there's cars. I can't clear the cars. You need to send the cops down here so we can, you know, so I can get out of this. That's not an emergency. Click. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. So, well, I guess the cops ain't gonna be no help. I don't know what to do, because, you know, so people are back there, and it's just like, well, I just sit here, so sit here. Finally, the cops showed up. I guess somebody did finally contact the police anyway. So the police shows up. One guy's a young officer, and the other guy was, you know, looked like he was a little bit older, maybe 30s or 40s, and so he'd been around a little while, and, you know, the young guy's just freaking out. He's like, man, what the hell are you doing? You know, and, you know, the old guy, he's like, oh, calm down, man. He's like, this happens all the time. He said, trucks do this all the time. He said, but most of the time, you know, they got a lot shorter trailers, and he said what they do is they come down here, and they you know, just flip around, and then they go back down to this one road down here and go back up. He said because it's a lot wider down there. So so anyway, after all this, the lady that was in the car that was in question had come out, and she got in her car and was able to get herself out, and she got out of the way. So I'm like, well, I can make this, so, you know, okay, I think I can make this turn now because this car is out of the way. So he's like, okay, so what are we gonna do? He's like, you know, I said, well, he's like, I don't know, with this big trailer, he's like, I don't even know if you can make it down that other street down there, you know. He's like, And he said, if we get down there and then you can't make it down there, then we're really going to be screwed. So he's like, I think the best thing to do is that we send you, he said, we need to send you back up the hill. And, you know, but the hill was, you know, pretty icy, pretty much covered in ice and everything, and I was empty. So so, you know, I said, all right, because I knew if I got going forward and then backed up, I had enough room to make it back up that street. I could make it back up that street. So anyway, he comes out. So this just turns into a mess. I mean, there's people backing up, you know, all the way up this hill. The traffic is just stopped, and you know, they're all. I'm just standing out here, you know, and these guys, people are out here like, just honking, hanging out the windows, yelling at each other. Come on, what's going on? What's the problem? You know, but they were completely oblivious to the fact that there was a huge truck in front of them that was blocking the intersection. You know, it's like tunnel vision. Like they could just see the car in front of them and they couldn't see anything else. And they're just like, man, what's going on? The hell? And so he was like, I was just laughing. There's people all over the place, man. And I had a dog with me, this blue heeler. And this blue heeler did not like people around. So she was flipping out. She was like, the whole time. She's just flipping out. I'm just like, oh, I'm losing my mind. The stress was like outrageous. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, well, we're gonna just pull forward so we can get this traffic out of here. So I went around, I pulled forward down the street, and you know, the cops, they got all the traffic clear. So they shut down the street. And they had cops up on top of the hill so when I got back to the top of the hill, they were going to shut down the street up at the top of the hill to get me back. And so so they brought in this a plow and a sand truck, and you know, the guy went from top to bottom up this hill, and he sanded the crap out of this hill. And so we were all ready to go. So he says, okay. So he said, well, so go ahead and just start backing up, and we'll watch you back here, you know. So, and I got people all around the front of my truck and everything. So I'm backing up, and now I try to tell him, like, he's got two cops on this side, on the driver's side, and all the people in front of me, they're all kind of on the drive. I'm telling the cops, I'm like, you gotta watch. I say, you guys got this side covered. You gotta watch the passenger side, man. It's like, you gotta watch out over there. So, you know, they're like, oh, we got it. You know, come on. So I'm backing up. You know, the cops there, come on, you know. And then all of a sudden, there's boom, son of a. And so I'm like, eh. So I pull forward a little bit and get out. Mud flap hanger on the passenger side. Clipped the bumper of a car. And when I pull forward, it ripped the bumper. So then the cop comes up there and he's like, did you just hit that car? Oh, yeah, you think? Why didn't I tell you guys to freaking watch that side for? You're all over here. I got 100 people on this side watching the driver's side, and nobody's watching that side. Like I told you, I can't see over there. And he's like, oh man. So they run the plates. They get to find out who the owner of the car is. Dispatch calls them up, right? So you think this guy would come downstairs and, you know, see what's going on with this car, right? No. Next thing you know, like 5 minutes later, like 10 stories up, the window opens, a guy comes out, hanging out the window. Hey, what's going on down there? They're shouting back, he hit your car! And so he's like, he wasn't really mad or anything. He's just like, oh, we're exchanging information and everything. I'm like, exchanging information with a guy 10 stories up, hanging out the window, who won't even come down. And so that was I'm like, oh man, this is just not good. So anyway, we got all that done, and so he went back in the window, and so now finished backing up. You know, he's like, all right, come on, let's just back it up, and got back into the intersection where I could make the left, made the left, and they gave me directions. They said, where are you trying to go? And I told them, I said, trying to get back on the freeway up there, and I kind of veered off in the wrong direction, and it was over. So all right, go back up to the top of the hill, make a right, turn left down this street here, and do this and that. You know, you'll be right back up there, right? So I go, all right, good. So I get up there. You know, when I start going up the hill, I mean, it's no problem. The traction was great, and turned right. You know, and the cops, you know, the guy. So I turned right. So I get down there. So we get to the street where they told me to turn left, and I said, you gotta be kidding me. There was no way my truck was gonna make that turn. I said, no, man. And by this point, I was so lost, I really couldn't even remember where I came from. I had done gone up and down so many streets, I couldn't even remember how to get back to where I was to begin with. So I'm like, man. So I ended up turning, had it flipped around, went back down the other way that I just came again. I said, well, I ain't going down that street, so I'm going to keep going down that way and see what's down there. So anyway, I came up on a fire station down there. So I backed up into the fire department, turned around, went back, you know, and I say, the guy comes out, and the fire guy comes out, and I tell him what's going on, and he said, all right, so yeah, so this is what you need to do. So he told me, you know, gave me directions how to get a truck back out of there. And so I finally made it back to the freeway, and got over to Newark, which was even more fun over in that mess. So I got there, and this guy, you know, I'm in line. This guy's trying to back into the dock. It's backing off of the street, you know, and I say, well, I was like, all right, I'll help you out, driver, you know. So I step out there in the street, you know, and I'm like, you know, tell them, hey, you know, stop, hold on a minute, you know, something. And people are like, woo! I think they hit the gas, start going faster. I'm like, oh, hey, you're on your own, dude. Screw this, man. Oh, yeah, what a day. All right, y'all be good. We'll talk to you later.